Opening exercise. Question for you, for everybody in the room. Why are you here? Now there's the big thought of this, why are you here, like why are you on the planet? But there's also the thought of why you're here today. Because I believe that when you know why you do what you do it better. So I want everybody in the room to take a moment now and reflect on why you're in this room today. I can tell you, I've got 4 reasons. 4 very good reasons. Exene, Abigail, Luna, and Asher, my 4 grandchildren. I'm 75 years old. I can just go hang it up and sit on the sideline. But I'm not going to do that. I want to leave the world a better place for future generations, and these days, that's a tall order. But I want everybody in here to take a moment and reflect on that. What about this brought you to this room today? And then we're going to share about that at tables. Okay? So take a moment, everybody, and reflect. Why does this interest you? Why do you care enough to take a day of your time and be here? Why are you here? When you know why you do what you do it better.
All right, as we start to come back to the full room, if every table can designate one person who's going to share their reason why, and as y'all are figuring out who that's going to be, I'm going to tell you my reason why. I spent many years working in government. I've worked for local government, state government, the federal government in the environmental spaces, and I've kind of switched teams to the nonprofit space. And now I'm working in government accountability. And what I have realized is that if we do not hold our decision makers and the leads of our cities and our state government and even the federal government accountable to the goals that we've set, we're never going to get there. And so that is my why. And I'm going to come right over here to this table. We're just going to work our way around. We're asking for one person to also share their why. And do we have another microphone, David, for the audience? Should we just use
Yes, back here.
that? Oh, or this one right here. Here, I've got this one. It's already on.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eduardo. I'm a Paul Quinn student, major in psychology. I'm from Brazil, not from here, so I'm an international student. And I do believe the why we're here, of course, they make us come here, but no. Coming here is great, mainly because of knowledge, but not only of knowledge, getting to know from more experienced people. Since we're so young in our 20s, maybe some of us are still at 18, 19, getting to come here and getting to learn from people that are in this business from way longer than us, not only a business, but a community service with Earth. It's so important. You get to open our minds for this kind of thing. So I do believe this is the why we came in this table. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. If you'll pass your microphone that way.
Hi, everyone. I'm Manisha, and I am part of Program Earth. And it was really beautiful to start this morning because a lot of our why came from our stories of our relations in terms of as we were growing up and how our families took us out to nature, how that baton gets passed as now when we're parents, we get to take our children out to nature. I got to recall how my grandma told me that, we would be in trouble if we valued trees more when they were cut down than when they were standing. And I think a lot of our why is to help keep nature be standing and also to make it more accessible so that it isn't necessarily a 3 or 5 hour drive to a national park. It's making relation with the animals near us and the plants near us and remembering that we are also nature, wanting to be with nature.
Thank you so much for sharing. We're going to pass that microphone to Jimena.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jimena. I represent Trinity Park Conservancy, a local nonprofit. I'm here in a table with a lot of people that represent Dallas, Paul Quinn, people that don't represent Dallas, but we all have a lot of shared purpose. And so a few highlights is with educators here, the opportunity to learn and be open to new experiences, new perspectives. And I just think that that attitude is something that's shared within this group. Everyone here has kind of an intention to be here with an open mind. And so another underlying message that we saw here in this table was being able to advocate and speak for the people and the species that can't. So being able to give agency and voice to kids, underrepresented groups, and wildlife that can't, speak up for itself. And so we have to be the stewards and protectors of those communities. And lastly, our community, and so from Dallas, we love Dallas. We want to keep Dallas healthy, growing in a positive way. And so being very realistic about what does that future look like. We're really interested and invested in that. So thank you.
There's a question I want before you come to Brian Evans from Paul Quinn. Could you talk a little bit about Paul Quinn's commitment to the environment, going all the way back to the big community garden that they put in years ago?
Yes.
It's a very interesting narrative about Paul Quinn and the environment.
Yes, one of the things we talked about at the table was our hydroponic farm that we have on campus. And that was born out of, we shut our football program down a number of years ago, and we turned the stadium into a hydroponic farm. When we did that, what drove it was there was a landfill closer to that community than there was a grocery store. And so we wanted to create a space where we could provide fresh vegetables for that community. But what it bore out of, we started to create some partnerships with some corporate entities. The biggest buyer of our produce now is the Dallas Cowboys. So if you've been to a Dallas Cowboys game and had a burger with lettuce or a tomato on it, it's a very high probability that came from our farm. And so what we're doing now is we're also doing some farm-to-table stuff in our cafeteria where we're serving vegetables and things from our farm. And again, it was about, we started a campaign that we're not trash. And so we started to create this space where communities could learn about community gardens and providing fresh vegetables for themselves. We also had a bee farm at one point where we were providing honey for people in the community. So a portion of what we grow, we give away to the community so that we can make sure that our community in South Dallas has access to those fresh vegetables and produce. And so it's a big thing that we wanted to bring our students to today for this, but also Trammell Crow is one of our big partners. And we know that this environmental piece is has a huge place in his heart. And so we want our students to learn about who we partner with and why. And this is a great opportunity for them to have a greater understanding of how all of this fits into what we're trying to educate them on.
Brian, thank you. That's a great narrative. Appreciate it.
Hello, my name is Kendall Marshall. I'm a sophomore communications major at Paul Quinn College. And I think a lot of our why at this table came from the careers that we are in and the careers that we want in the future. And it has a lot to do about like the youth and educating them and making sure that they are able to understand where they're coming from and how to take care of the earth and the environment that they are in.
Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sergio Martinez Palomino. I'm a sophomore here at Paul Quinn College. My major is accounting, and my hometown is from Fort Worth, Texas. And to tell everybody about my personal why and why I am here, it's mainly because of interest. When it comes to my knowledge about green and pro-earth, I'm not very caught up with the main issues. Like everybody else's whys before mine, it's pretty much looking at everything great in the environment and wanting it to stay there. I have no way of helping, so coming here, it helps my brain mature when it comes to the information and the aspect of knowing what to gain. A little bit about my tables why. Their career branches often break off into the environment. So in order to better the environment, everybody just has to do their thing. Everybody has to keep going on forward and wanting it better for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jonathan Kratz, Executive Director for U.S. Green Building Council of Texas. For me, why I'm here is for connection, because none of us can do this by ourselves. David, you and I have had this conversation at length many times, but as a collective of people, we have so much more impact than we do as individuals. That a lot of our folks, our students here, are learning, trying to figure out why this matters, how they can contribute to it, but then how all the other things we're looking at, heat islands, other supply chain issues, how all that factors into the greater aspect of life on Earth, but how we can work together to actually make a difference.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Julie Hiramoto. I'm an architect with HKS, and I'm also the mayor's appointee to the Dallas Environmental Commission. I'm here today because the built environment is a critical lever to pull in climate solutions, and we're not pulling it right now. Like Jonathan, we spend so much of our time indoors, and our built environment is responsible for over 40% of our global greenhouse gas contributions. Did you know that? I'm going to talk about that at the end of the day today, but everything about our physical infrastructure can be done more strategically, more intentionally for climate, for health, and for prosperity for all.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Deborah Wheeler. I'm a PhD student at University of North Texas, environmental science, and my research specifically ties into why I'm here. So I work on human-wildlife conflicts in Dallas, so urban mammals, and I think that today, like we know, there was just a talk with one of the speakers about how can we make urban cities better. There's been talks about, biodiversity, how can we, help save species. So I think, like, even if it's something maybe not directly related to sustainability, well, if you have more sustainable environment and practices, that will help, the biodiversity. So I think, like a lot of these topics, I'm here to learn more and understand of what are people talking about, who are involved in this type of topics, and to learn more about that and who they are. And so kind of just here to learn more, make connections, and see what the future holds, hopefully for a better environment.
One of the things we wanted to do today is to have a really broad-based group of people gather, because so often, I've said this before many times, over a long period of time, the environmental movement, the green movement, has been too gray and frankly too white. I grew up during the days of the Civil Rights Movement and the Vietnam War movement. That's my high school days. Well, by the time I got to be a senior in college, the Vietnam War was winding down. That movement literally was going away. And then, of course, Dr. King had been assassinated in 1968. And tragically, the Civil Rights Movement splintered and went in different directions then. So those two major movements in my life changed drastically. And then I was asked by a professor at Austin College to work with him on mentoring a group of freshmen who were interested in what they called in those days the ecology movement. The ecology movement. And so I did that. And suddenly I was a senior in the room, but I was working with first-year students. And they were interested in this environmental movement, something new that had come along. And so my working with young people 3 years younger than I was, actually changed my life. So I was mentoring them, but I was learning from them at the same time, because they were interested in this new movement about the environment. Earth Day had just been signed into law. The Clean Air Act had just been passed. The Clean Water Act had just been passed. So for me, this idea of why are you here today and why does this matter goes all the way back to my being in college, just as some of you are in college now, and seeing a new purpose in life. And then over a period of time, beginning to realize that this environmental movement was very tied into the justice movement of the civil rights days. Because if you looked at West Dallas, that's where the lead smelter was. Lane plating, South Dallas. Shingle Mountain, South Dallas. So we began to see that all this began to tie together, that you couldn't separate any of it out. All these things were part of one. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to ask this question this morning is, why are you here? From you as an individual and you as a group also. Because if we look at history long enough, we begin to see that all these things are part of one river. Many tributaries, one river, okay? So I'm very glad that all of you are here today so we can discuss everything from the built environment and how we build buildings and try to do it more efficiently, to how we interact with the land. And all it comes together. You can't separate this one from another. It all ties together. And we'll discover that more during the day.